Every product you have ever bought, from the phone in your hand to the shoes on your feet, likely traveled across oceans inside a metal box. A simple steel container. It looks ordinary, almost forgettable, stacked in endless rows on massive cargo ships or sitting quietly in ports. But behind these boxes lies an empire most people never see. An empire so powerful, it quietly controls how the world trades, what things cost, and sometimes what never arrives at all. This is the hidden system behind global shipping containers and how it shapes the modern world in ways that rarely make headlines. Before the 1950s, global trade was slow, messy, and painfully inefficient. At ports around the world, workers manually loaded cargo piece by piece. Barrels, crates, sacks, anything that could be carried was stacked onto ships one item at a time. It could take days, sometimes weeks, to fully load or unload a single vessel. Goods were damaged, lost, or stolen with alarming frequency. Costs were high, delays were normal, and global trade was limited not by demand, but by logistics. Then, in 1956, an American entrepreneur named Malcolm McLean introduced an idea so simple it almost seemed obvious. Instead of loading cargo individually, everything could be packed into standardized steel containers that could move seamlessly between ships, trucks, and trains without ever being opened during transit. That one innovation transformed global trade almost overnight. Ports became faster, costs dropped dramatically. And suddenly, shipping goods across continents became not just possible, but efficient. Today, more than 90% of global trade moves by sea, and most of it travels inside these containers. At any given moment, tens of millions of them are moving across oceans, stacked high on ships that are longer than skyscrapers are tall. They connect factories in Asia to stores in America, farms in South America to markets in Europe, and manufacturers across the globe to consumers everywhere. It is one of the most important systems ever created, and yet most people never think about it. But here is where the story takes its first unexpected turn. If something so simple runs the world, who actually controls it? The first shock is not the containers themselves, but the companies behind them. A surprisingly small group of shipping giants controls a massive portion of global container trade. Names like Maersk, MSC, and CMA-CGM dominate the industry, operating enormous fleets that span nearly every major trade route on Earth. While it may appear that these companies are constantly competing, the reality is far more complex. Through strategic alliances, they share ships, coordinate schedules, and optimize routes together. These alliances manage over 70% of global shipping capacity. That means a handful of corporations effectively control the majority of how goods move across the planet. On the surface, this system looks efficient, even necessary, to handle the scale of global trade, but it also creates something else entirely. It concentrates power, because when only a few players control the network, they do not just transport goods. They influence the entire flow of global commerce. And that influence becomes critically important when things go wrong. In the early 2020s, the system faced one of its greatest stress tests in modern history. A combination of global disruptions pushed shipping networks to their limits. Ports became congested. Ships waited offshore for days, sometimes weeks, unable to unload. Containers piled up in the wrong places, while other regions faced severe shortages. The entire system, which had been optimized for speed and efficiency, began to slow down. But here's the counterintuitive part. Even as delays increased and the system struggled, shipping costs did not fall. They skyrocketed. In some cases, the cost of sending a single container from Asia to Europe increased 5 to 10 times compared to previous years. For businesses, this was not just a logistical issue. It was a financial shock. Why did this happen? Because container shipping is not just about supply and demand. It is about positioning. Containers need to be in the right place at the right time. When they become stuck in one part of the world, they are effectively unavailable everywhere else. This creates artificial scarcity, even when there are technically enough containers in existence. And here's where the hidden power of the system becomes clear. The companies controlling these networks also control access. They decide which routes are prioritized, which shipments move first, and which customers get space on ships. What looked like a global logistics problem quietly became a shift in pricing power. Those who controlled the network could influence not just movement, but cost. For consumers, this translated into something simple but significant: higher prices, delayed deliveries, empty shelves. But behind those everyday inconveniences was a system revealing just how fragile it really was. And that brings us to the deeper issue, one that rarely gets discussed. Because this is not just a story about delays or rising costs. It is about what happens when a system is optimized for efficiency, but not for resilience. Modern global shipping is designed to operate with incredible precision. Every route is calculated, every container tracked, every schedule optimized. There is very little room for error because efficiency demands it. But that same efficiency removes flexibility. When something unexpected happens, the system does not bend easily, it strains. For businesses, especially smaller ones, the consequences can be severe. Imagine a small retailer waiting for inventory that is stuck in a container somewhere at sea. Every day of delay means lost sales. Lost sales mean lost revenue. And for some, it can mean the difference between survival and failure. For consumers, the impact feels less dramatic, but no less real. Prices rise without warning. Products become temporarily unavailable. Supply chains that once seemed invisible suddenly become impossible to ignore. One of the most widely reported examples of this fragility occurred when a single container ship blocked a major global shipping route, a canal responsible for carrying around 10 to 12% of global trade. For several days, the flow of goods around the world was effectively paused. Hundreds of ships were delayed. Billions of dollars in trade were impacted. And all of it was caused by a single point of failure. That moment exposed something critical. The system that moves the world is not just powerful, it is vulnerable. And the more optimized it becomes, the more sensitive it is to disruption. But the story does not end there. Because the container system is no longer just physical, it has evolved into something far more complex. Today, global shipping runs on data. Behind every container is a network of algorithms, tracking systems, and digital platforms that determine how goods move. These systems decide which routes are most profitable, which shipments get priority, and how resources are allocated across the entire network. This is where the true hidden empire exists. Not just in ships or containers, but in information and decision-making. Because when a small number of networks control both the physical infrastructure and the flow of data, they gain a level of influence that extends far beyond transportation. They do not just move goods. They shape global trade itself. To be clear, this system has brought enormous benefits. It has lowered the cost of goods, connected economies, and made modern life possible in ways that would have been unimaginable just decades ago. The ability to order a product online and have it delivered from the other side of the world in a matter of days is nothing short of extraordinary. But there is another side to that story. A side that is less visible, but equally important. Because concentration of power, even in something as seemingly mundane as shipping, has consequences. It raises questions about transparency, about resilience, and about who ultimately controls the systems that underpin our daily lives, and most people never see it. They see the product on the shelf, the package at their door, the convenience of modern commerce, but they do not see the journey behind it. They do not see the network of decisions, the bottlenecks, the vulnerabilities, or the quiet influence of a system operating at a global scale. So the next time you buy something online, or pick up a product in a store, take a moment to think about where it came from. Not just the country or the factory, but the journey it took to get to you. A journey that likely involved thousands of miles across oceans, multiple modes of transportation, and a network of systems working together to deliver it. A journey controlled by a system designed for speed, scale, and efficiency, but maybe not always for stability. And that raises a question worth considering. If a handful of networks have the ability to influence global trade at such a massive scale, should there be more transparency in how this system operates? Should the invisible infrastructure of our global economy be more visible to the people who depend on it every day? Because the truth is, this hidden empire is not going away. It is growing, becoming more advanced, more interconnected, and more essential with every passing year. The question is not whether it will continue to shape the world. The question is how much control it should have, and who gets to decide. Let me know in the comment section what you think. And if you want to uncover more hidden systems shaping our world, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching.